Welcome to Toastmaster Time, the show that has everyone talking. I'm Ashley Harkness, and I'm going to be your host for this particular edition of Toastmaster Time, but I am not alone. With us today is Trich Gray, who will be our evaluator. Trish, tell us about who came on the show.
Yes, Ashley. You know, we're coming into the end of the year. We have two speakers who are going to lead us into the holiday season. Our first speaker is going to give us a humorous look at someone who's a real turkey. Well, I think it's funny. And our second speaker, since we're coming into the end of the year, it's a good time to think about changes you might want to make in your life. Our second speaker is going to talk about following your heart. I think we can all learn something today.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Trish. I'll be talking to you later on in the show, and now it's time to introduce our first guest, Tanya Leigh Jansen. How are you?
I'm great, Ashley. How are you?
Welcome to Toastmaster Time.
Thank you.
How long have you been in Toastmasters?
Since 2006.
2006?
Yeah. My boss told me that I should go.
I've had that happen to me too.
Really?
Oh, yes.
You have?
Yes. Very good. I'm glad you did. And what club are you representing today?
Tonight I'm representing Tales and Tellers.
Storytelling Club.
Yep, Storytelling Club. And I have a tall tale for you, in fact.
I love tall tales. Tall tales are awful, a lot of fun. I think that's going to be great.
Yeah, it's going to be fun.
It is. So, are you ready to give your speech?
Absolutely.
Okay, well, I'm going to give you a minute or so to get prepared. And while I do that, I'm going to explain to the ladies and gentlemen of the audience a little bit more about Toastmasters and manual speeches. In Toastmastering, we don't do impromptu speeches as much as we do manual speeches to learn basic skills and also advanced specialty skills that we can use in our regular lives. I myself have been using these to help me with my presentations, and it works. Now, let's talk with Trich Gray a little bit about her job as an evaluator. So, tell us a little bit more about Tanya's speech.
Tanya is working from the Competent Communicator Manual. Excuse me, this is project number 6, Vocal Variety. She's going to use her volume, pitch, rate, quality to add meaning and interest to her speech, help keep the audience engaged. She's going to use pauses to enhance her message, and the vocal variety should be smooth and effortless, just a way to add interest.
Oh, I think this is going to be very exciting. So thank you very much. I'll be back talking to you a little bit later, but now it's time for us to introduce our first guest, Tanya Leigh Jansen with the terrible turkey trick.
On the day before Thanksgiving, there was a magic show at my school. I was so bored as I fidgeted around in my desk, watching the leaves drift past the open window and the squirrels scampering after all those acorns. After all, I'd waited my entire life to see Derek the Dazzling's magnificent magic show. Just when I thought I couldn't stand tracing my hand into the shape of a turkey one more time, the voice bellowed from the loudspeaker, "Go to the auditorium for the magic show." I was so excited I leapt up from my seat and ran down the hallway, only running over a few first graders, when the whistle blew. "Slow down, no running in the hallway." I slowed down and skipped the rest of the way. After all, I wanted my seat in the first row. The magic show started, and card tricks and illusions of all kinds beguiled my eyes. Then the magician tried to pull a rabbit out of his hat, but he ended up with a jellyfish instead. Sticky situation I have here. Poof! He made it disappear. He fished around in his hat several more times, and I was starting to think it had more in it than my mommy's purse. Well, he finally ended up with that rabbit. Then he said the best words in the world. "I need a volunteer from the audience." I raised my hand high and said, "Please, oh please, oh please, oh please, pick me." After an eternity, Derek said, "I'll take that girl there in that swirly pink and yellow shirt, and my God, child, did you slay a Muppet for that jacket?" "Never mind, come on up here. I'm going to do my most magnificent trick of all." He pulled out his wand and said, Abracadabra, alakazee, be something different for me. All of a sudden, a light flashed. I stood there hoping and wishing that I'd be turned into a bumblebee or butterfly or a fairy, something with wings so I could flutter off into the distance. Then I didn't feel quite the same. I heard, gobble, gobble, gobble. And worst of all, it came from me. The entire audience, everyone I knew in elementary school, was howling with laughter. I stood there stuck in a turkey body. I was so embarrassed. I ran as fast as I could on my little turkey legs and hid underneath the piano that was on the stage. That magic show went on like nothing had happened. Finally, everyone left except me. The stage was dark and desolate, and I slowly tiptoed my way out. What was I going to do? What was I going to tell my mommy? How was I going to explain that it was just me stuck in a turkey body? One thing was for sure, I had to find that bumbling magician. Derek the Dazzling was indeed Derek the Disastrous, and he needed to make this right. I started out across the field, and a soccer ball whooshed by, nearly knocking my head out. I thought, I have wings, I'll use them to fly. I flapped, but I soon found out I was too plump for my wings to take me anywhere. So I ran higgly-piggly through the town, searching for that magician. But I ran into a butcher from the corner deli, who chased after me with his butcher knife aimed at my neck. I had to sidestep as he tripped over an alley cat. As I started out again, I saw her, my hope, my salvation. I would know her anywhere. It was Sasha, my best friend, the red hair, freckles, mismatched socks, and she said, "Come here, little turkey." I knew she recognized me, and I ran off with her. She took me home, but to my horror, she put me in a pot and started to fill it with water, saying that she was going to cook me just like she'd seen on those cooking shows. "Sasha," I said, "it's me, your bestest friend in the 2nd grade." But all that came out was, "Gobble, gobble, gobble, gobble." She turned around to turn the stove on. I saw my chance. I kicked that water bucket away, shook off my tail feathers, and got out of there as quickly as I could. By now, it was starting to get dark, and I knew that I had to return to the scene of the terrible crime. I went back across the schoolyard, daintily avoiding all the dangers. The one light that was on in the school was the principal's office. I tiptoed in and saw my mommy. But how was I going to explain that it was me just stuck in a turkey body when all that ever came out was gobble, gobble, gobble? She was there with that bumbling magician, and he looked at me and said, "Abracadabra, alakazee, be your true self once more for me." Poof! I was transformed back into a little girl. I got to go home, and the next day was Thanksgiving. My family came, and they brought all kinds of yummy food. My grandma brought those candied yams. My uncle, well, he's crazy, so he brought cranberry sauce. But I set up the whole feast. We piled our plates high. And try as I might to resist the foul, my hunger got the best of me. I lifted that turkey thigh, took a bite, and before I could swallow, you guessed it, all that came out was gobble, gobble, gobble.
Trish, what do you think about that speech?
Well, she was a real turkey. I mean, she was a real...
It wasn't just for the birds?
No. you know, I thought this was actually an excellent example of vocal variety as well as gestures. And I mean, yes, she had the turkey voice, gobble, gobble, gobble. But what I liked is you can choose words that have interest, and just the way you say them can help you add vocal variety. For example, when she was talking about, you know, the abracadabra and, you know, pick me, you know, so she was acting out that particular character, the little girl who wanted to be chosen, or she wanted to be turned into a butterfly with the fluttering arms. Oh, I like that word, flutter. And, you know, but instead all she got was the turkey, and running higgly-piggly through the town because she was too plump to fly. So just even by the words you choose, that helps encourage you to add vocal variety to your speech. I thought she did a great job.
I agree. I think she did a wonderful job. I thought it was lots of fun and lots of funny. And I could imagine children hearing that and they enjoying it very, very much.
Yes.
Well, thank you very much for your comments. I'll be talking to you a little bit later in the show. This is Toastmaster Time, your television show for Toastmasters, and we will be right back.
Name an effective political leader in history who couldn't speak well.
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
There aren't any.
Because when it comes to a disease,
Freedom requires leadership, and leadership requires oratory. You have to speak to be heard.
I have a dream.
It's all about personal growth and guts.
Never give in. Never, never, never.
Welcome to Toastmaster Time, the show that has everyone talking. I'd like to introduce my next guest, Jennifer Fleming. Welcome to the show, Jennifer.
Thank you, Ashley.
And how long have you been in Toastmaster?
Actually, 3.5 years, but extends back to 1982.
1982?
Yes.
Oh, tell us about that.
Well, my boss said, you know, you probably should join Toastmasters. All of us are members here. It would be good for your career. We do a lot of presentations to potential clients, and we want people to be prepared.
And did it help you?
Oh, yes.
Excellent. I'm glad to hear that. So, what is your club that you're representing?
Union City.
Union City. Strong club. Very good. Very good. Now, your presentation, are you ready to do it?
Of course.
Okay, well, I'm going to give you a minute to get over it on your mark and get set. And while that's happening, I'm going to explain to our Toastmaster audience a little bit more about the organization. Toastmasters is an international organization. We're in 90 different countries at least. There's 135,000 members and 13,000 clubs. Anyone can join. All they have to do is go to a meeting and sit down and have some fun. It's a wonderful experience. I recommend it for everybody. I've been doing it for a long, long time. But now let's get back to, welcome back, Trich Gray, our evaluator. Tell us what Jennifer is going to be working on for this speech.
Jennifer is also working from the Competent Communicator Manual. She's doing project number 9, Persuade with Power. Her objectives are to persuade the listener to adopt her point of view, but you also want them to then take that new ideas and put them to action. She's going to appeal to the audience's interest, use logic and emotion to support her point of view.
Oh, good. Excellent briefing on it. Thank you very much. I'll be back with you a little bit later. But now it's time to introduce our next speaker, Jennifer Fleming, with When the Universe Speaks.
For 68 years, the universe spoke to me. But I was afraid. Everybody knew me as Jim. My parents, my family, my teachers, employers, society. And they all had expectations of what I was supposed to be. But it never felt right. Ladies and gentlemen, when I say the universe spoke to me, do you have an idea of what I'm talking about? Let me give you my perspective. We're all interconnected. There's a school of thought that says that even before the moment of conception, all of our skills, our talents, our deepest desires, our challenges, our opportunities are mapped out in advance, along with every single person that we will meet in our lives. However, we have complete free will on how we handle those interactions, on how we develop our talents, on how we treat people we meet. When we're truly in touch with the universe and our path, life is like a beautifully choreographed ballet. But when we're not, it's more like Black Friday at name whatever store you want. But back to my story. Why was I afraid? Well, it meant that I would have to go against everything that I was taught, everything I was told, all the expectations that other people had for me. And that's kind of scary. As a result, I didn't follow the message I was receiving. Eventually, the universe said, he's not listening. She's not listening. Whatever you want to call yourself, Jim, Jennifer, it's time to wake up. I got my wake-up call. First in the form of Caitlyn Jenner telling her story to Diane Sawyer. I literally cried my eyes out. Because except for the names and a few other changes, if you talked about me, the story was the same one. But now I was even more scared because I understood my condition, who I was, but I couldn't move forward. Then a member of this Toastmasters district, District 57, Mr. James Jeffley, did a speech called The Line. James talked about an invisible line. On one side of that line, where he had lived his entire life, it was safe and it was secure, but he wasn't himself. On the other side of that line, there were risks, there was danger, but he would be true to himself. And that's when I knew. The pain of not being true to myself, of being the real me, of being authentic, was now more than I could bear. "17 days later, after hearing his speech, I stepped out into the sunlight as Jennifer for the first time. I closed the door behind me on my life as Jim, and I've never looked back. Ladies and gentlemen, my message to you is very clear, very simple. When the universe speaks to you, listen. Don't do like I did. Grab that message with your heart, with your soul. Do whatever it takes to follow your intended path. Just listen. Thank you.
Very powerful speech.
You know, it is. And I know Jim personally because we're in the same club. And Jennifer. And it is very powerful to see her transformation. And it is very obvious to me this is where she needs to be. She's very happy. Mm-hmm. She's, as she says, very authentic. And what I like is the fact that it's her story, but everyone has a story. And it doesn't matter what your situation is. It doesn't have to be exactly like her situation, but we all need to listen when the universe speaks, because that's where you're going to be the happiest. And I like how she started with kind of her background, and for 68 years, I mean, that's kind of powerful. 68 years is a very long time.
Very long time, yes.
To not be listening. And then what triggered her transformation was her wake-up calls is Caitlyn Jenner. And I've seen Caitlyn on the TV several times. And in fact, that's one of the points she makes, is she feels that's her purpose in life, is mm-hmm. to help people become themselves. So it's obviously working in this case. And then the other situation, James Jeffley, with his speech. And I'm sure James would just be thrilled to know that obviously people are listening. The two sides of the line, the safe but not being yourself, and then the other side, which has a lot more risks, a lot more danger, but being true to yourself.
We had that speech here from him on Toastmaster Time before.
We did.
Deadline, yes, absolutely.
We did.
I remember that.
It is excellent.
That reference was striking to me.
Yeah. So I think that no matter what your situation is, everyone can learn from Jen's story, which is when the universe speaks, listen, and
that's the essence of her persuasion with power.
Just be aware of the dangers, but you should take that risk and be authentic.
Thank you very much. We'll be back later on, but it's Toastmaster time. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back. Thank you.
Name an effective political leader in history who couldn't speak well.
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
There aren't any.
Because when it comes to a disease,
Freedom requires leadership, and leadership requires oratory. You have to speak to be heard.
I have a dream.
It's all about personal growth and guts.
Never give in. Never, never, never.
Welcome back to Toastmaster Time, the show that has everyone talking. We have a special segment at this particular point in the show. Toastmastering, when new people come into Toastmasters, they're very unaware of the fact that Toastmasters is a full-bridged program of learning not only speaking, but also in leadership. We acknowledge this as the person progresses through a whole series of awards as they accomplish several tasks towards what we consider to be the utmost, the highest accomplishment. We call it the Distinguished Toastmaster Award. This award has required a lot of effort on the part of the person. They've worked in many, many different areas within the organization, including part of the district government and parts of working for the public itself. Tonight, I have the pleasure of presenting that award to our producer, Trich Gray. Trich, I have here a plaque that attests to your having been awarded the Distinguished Toastmaster Award. I know that you've spent a lot of time with this, so please give us an idea of the effort that it took to get this wonderful award.
It was definitely an effort. It took me about 6 years, and in fact, I was just looking at what went into all those educational words you were talking about. It was about 50 speeches, lots of about 30 different meeting roles that I had to accomplish. But what struck me as I was going through the levels is, like most people, I joined Toastmasters for me. And that's what you start with on the communication side. But as you progress, the goal for Toastmasters is that you take those skills, give back to your club, that's some of the requirements, and then to give back to the public, like you were talking about, as you, for example, one might be a youth leadership program.
Youth leadership program, now that's a Toastmasters program that is designed for?
To teach communication and leadership skills to secondary and high school students.
So students who are not Toastmasters are being taught these skills.
Right. So your whole point is to take your skills and put them to use out in the community. And for me, the final level that I had to do was my high performance leadership project, where I had to take a project, assemble a group of people, Toastmasters, non-Toastmasters, and come up with a goal, a mission, a set of objectives. My particular leadership project was this show. We converted to high definition, which meant we changed our set. We had to make sure our crew was trained on the new equipment. And so I headed that up, and here we are.
Congratulations. It's a wonderful effort. And I thank you for all the effort you put into us. So
Thank you.
At Toastmaster Time, you can see there's more to Toastmastering than meets the eye. If you're interested in finding out more about Toastmaster Time television, you can go to our website, which is www.toastmastertime.org. And you can look at us there. You can also see us, www.toastmastertime.com. And then you can also go to toastmasters.org for the international. If you're interested about District 57, it's d57.org. I'll get these right one way or another. And so on behalf of the Toastmasters and the people at the Media Center in Palo Alto who have supported us on this, I thank you all for joining us for another version of Toastmaster Time. And I hope you all keep on speaking.